All right, let's get to the meat of it. If you're going to publish a book independently, what are the ways to publish? There are 3 ways to publish. It's really that simple. 3 ways, not complicated. The first way is called the traditional publishing system. The second way is called the hybrid publishing system. And the third way is called the self-publishing or independent publishing system. The traditional system is what you see the big headlines about. Prince Harry got, $10 million to do his autobiography. Those are the ones that get the headlines. That, sure enough, is not independently published. That means that Prince Harry, or yourself, if you're going to go in that route, believe it or not, you guys are on the same page. You got a good book idea, someone will pay you for it. That means that you go to a traditional publisher through what's called an agent. An agent is someone who represents you, just like in Hollywood and other places. The agent usually does not ask for anything. If an agent is charging you for something, that's usually a bad sign. But a book agent will say, hey, I will represent you. That's the term. But once you sell that book and any copies of that book, I'm taking 15% off of it. So whatever royalties you get from that book eventually, the agent's going to take at least 15%. If they're working with other agents, it could be as high as 20%. If it's higher than that, then I would question things. Industry standard is 15%. But for that 15%, the agent, for free, will trot you around to the different publishing organizations, publishers, that's the word I'm looking for, publishing organizations, publishers in New York, in SF, in LA. Those are the main hubs, particularly, obviously, New York, if you know the publishing industry. And then they will say, hey, you've got a really good idea here. He or she's a new author. You should rock with them. Let's do this. They offer a deal. The deal often comes with an advance. Advance, as we talked about in the previous episode about artist contracts. Again, the links are below, or just scroll back in the chat 5 minutes ago. Then based on that, they will give you an advance. The advance is a certain set amount of money to make sure that you can eat and take care of things while you complete the book. The book finally comes out. You pay them back the advance based on the royalty setup that you have based on per book sold. That's the traditional publishing industry. Lots of intricacies to it, but that's the basic idea. When you come to hybrid, that's the second version, that's when you actually pay someone to print the books for you, promote them, get them out there. They might even get you some media looks. So they might reach out to certain podcasts for you, depending on the package you buy. Again, so you might say, I really want to publish this book, but I don't want to try to find a printer. I don't want to find an editor. I want the cover design. I just want to write the book and then have it get shipped out and make sure it's in bookstores. Organizations like one I'll suggest to you right now are called hybrid, where they'll go ahead and say, yes, give me $5,000, $10,000, whatever the case may be. You buy this package and then we'll do the rest, just write the book. And in fact, we'll get an editor for you who will help you get through the book if you're a first-time editor or first-time writer, or if you've never written something before on that magnitude. That's an example of that. The last example is independent. Independent means you're actually writing the book, and then I highly suggest you get an editor as well as a cover designer to go ahead and make sure that your book is up to standard. You might even get a ghostwriter or a writing coach. I also do both of those to help you get to that next level. And then you find those avenues to get it published. I'll go over some of those details. That's what I mean by independent publishing. Those are the different types of methods. So again, from the top, traditional publishing, which is what everybody knows about. Hybrid, which is when you pay a service and all you do is write the book and they do the rest. And then lastly, it's independent, where frankly, you end up putting enough money to make sure it gets done. But once the book starts selling, you actually get, as I said, the lion's share or the bulk of whatever the cover price is, as opposed to the other instances. Excuse me. If you want to learn more about the different types of publishing methods and how to structure things, I highly recommend the book, How to Write a Book Proposal by Michael Larson. Met Michael ages ago, back when I was a wee lad, just getting to the publishing industry. And we had our back and forth as far as understanding things and me trying to get things published and all those things. And then as I matured over the years, I really respected his guidance and his insight. He's been in the game for a long time. He actually is based in San Francisco, and I think his wife Elizabeth, rest in peace, she had passed away. But used to have these beautiful parties in their homes over in San Francisco when I lived there. And I caught the tail end of that era, but they're both gracious people, fantastic. This was the first book that actually set me on fire, where I was like, oh, I can do this. Now it's called How to Write a Book Proposal, and you think, well, I need a book proposal, which you may or might not know. You need a book proposal to actually talk to, again, that first option, the traditional publishers. If you're not going the traditional route, and you're going hybrid, where you're just paying someone and they're getting the package out for you, and lastly, if you're going independent, this is still a fantastic book to break down the structure as far as how you're going to get it out there, how you're going to market your book, and things of that nature. You still need to be involved, even if you're with a traditional publisher, in figuring out where your audience is. So highly recommend that book. It's one of my favorites. It stays on my shelf. I think I was reading it with a client, so I think that's why it's somewhere over here, but it's usually right behind me on my shelf. In fact, if you can find it on the shelf, I'll give you a cookie. All right. If you're more curious about the hybrid setup, then this is an option too. This publisher is called Greenleaf Book Group. I met them ages ago. In fact, let me put them on the stage here. There we go. I met them ages ago at the American Society of Journalists and Authors conference. Shout out to them. And Tanya, who is the founder, I believe. If not the founder, she's the CEO. Shout out to her as well. So they are super reputable. They have different packages. There's not an endorsement. I don't get kickbacks or anything from them. It's just, I remember meeting them ages ago. I think I just started publishing books. My 27th book is about to come out. That's how long I've known these guys. But I've heard so many good things about them. And they're actually one of the first hybrid publishers that I learned about. And even some people, well, stats speak for themselves. So I think they're really definitely, at minimum, they're one of the leaders when it comes to hybrid publishing. Check out their website if you're considering it. Because to be honest, if you're going to go independent, there's a lot of heavy lifting. If you're going to go the traditional route, there's also heavy lifting because you need to do the book proposal, you need to get an agent, and you need to, of course, get the buy-in from these major publishers who get pitches, dozens of pitches, if not hundreds, every single day. Not exaggerating. So if those two routes between hot and cold feel a little bit extreme, hybrid is also option two. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's gotten a bad rap in the past, but so did self-publishing, and that's helping me feed my family. So it's a different world here. Definitely embrace it. All right. So those are the three ways that you can get your book out there. No matter what you're doing with your book, and this actually, I would flip it back to my man, Michael Larson's book. If you're looking at different ways to publish and where your book might fit, there's one simple way to do it. And that is to get a sheet of paper and to write down whatever your book idea is and where you want it to go. What are the competing books and what are the complementary books? The competing books or competitive books and the complementary books. The competitive books are the books that are your direct competition. In other words, if they're at a bookstore and they're like, okay, I'm either going to get Damon's book or I'm going to get Angie's book over here, but I'm not going to get both of them because they're too similar. That's what a competitive book means. In my case, it might be my book, Career Remix, and then see if the homie's book is over here. There it is. And then my friend Jenny Blake's book, Pivot. They're very similar. We did not know each other at the time. When we finally linked up, we got along really well. That's probably why, is because we made really similar books. Career Remix actually came out a little bit later, but it was still the intention of the stuff I did in the Bites as Entrepreneur, which is around the time that Jenny and I met. These would be competitive books. They're similar, very similar things. How do you pivot your career? How do you pivot your career? You can compare that to a complementary book, which would be by another friend of mine. That's where I love hyping up my friends, but they are excellent authors. So not gonna be pushing BS on this show. And then my homie Nilofer Merchant, The Power of Onlyness. That actually matches fairly well with Career Remix or even my upcoming project, the complete Bring Your Worth collection. These are complementary. So if someone bought this, they were like, oh, I should probably get Damon's book too. It's a similar energy. They get my book, oh, I should probably get Nilofer's book. Once you determine then it'll help you strategize. Does your book make sense to get out there, or is it too similar to these other competing books? Is there an agent that represents those competing or complementary books? And maybe you can talk to them and say, hey, I got a book that I want to do that's similar. And you already represent Jenny Blake. You already represent Nilofer Merchant. Maybe you can represent me too. Those kind of discussions. It really gives a good strategic perspective on what's happening there. And so you got to look at it strategically and not just say, I want to write a book. Now, if you do want to write a book, that's cool. But if you want to actually have a book that moves numbers, that you want to partially make a living from, that you want on the bestseller list, that you want to do speaking engagements and things of that nature, then that does require that higher level of strategy.